neighbor thinks his Tesla is quick. Formula One fans believe nothing accelerates faster than their carbon fiber rockets. They're all wrong. There's a muscle car wearing 1960s sheet metal and an American V8 that makes a Formula One car look like it's moving in slow motion. This is the story of how American drag racers took vintage Camaros and Firebirds and turned them into the fastest accelerating vehicles on Earth. Faster than F1, faster than Top Fuel, faster than physics should allow. Formula One represents the absolute pinnacle of road racing technology. Million-dollar budgets, aerospace engineering, the world's best drivers. These cars pull 6 Gs in corners, rev to 18,000 RPM, and cost more than most people's houses. They're widely considered the fastest cars in motorsports. But there's one problem with that assumption. Formula One cars are built for road courses with corners, braking zones, and endurance. They're optimized for lap times, not pure acceleration. Put an F1 car on a drag strip, and something shocking happens. It gets absolutely destroyed by machines that look like they rolled out of a 1969 Chevrolet dealership. We're talking about pro stock and pro modified drag racing. These classes run bodies that look identical to classic muscle cars. A 1969 Camaro, a 1968 Firebird, a 1967 Mustang. But underneath that vintage tin, there's engineering that makes Formula One look primitive by comparison. Let's talk numbers, because numbers don't lie. A modern Formula One car, let's use a Mercedes or Red Bull as the benchmark, launches off the line and hits 60 miles per hour in approximately 2.5 seconds. Impressive. The quarter mile? Somewhere around 9 to 10 seconds. Top speed in the quarter? About 230 miles per hour. Now let's look at a pro-modified 1969 Camaro. Same test. 60 miles per hour? Under 1 second. You read that right? Under 1 second. The quarter mile? 5.6 to 5.8 seconds at speeds exceeding 250 miles per hour. The muscle car beats the Formula One car by nearly 4 full seconds in the quarter mile. In racing terms, that's not a victory. It's an execution. When the Pro Mod Camaro crosses the finish line at 250 miles per hour, the F1 car is still 300 feet behind, struggling to catch up. But here's what makes this even more insane. These Pro Mod cars are pulling over 4 Gs of acceleration from a standing start. That's space shuttle territory. F1 cars can pull 6 Gs in corners, sure, but only after they've already built up speed. From a dead stop, the muscle car's acceleration force is so violent it would injure an unprepared driver. The rear tires on a Pro Mod car grow nearly 4 inches in diameter at speed from centrifugal force. The wheelbase stretches, the chassis flexes. These cars are fighting physics itself and winning. Meanwhile, the F1 car is still trying to get its ultra-stiff suspension and low downforce setup to work on a straight line, something it was never designed to do. So how did American drag racers build something faster than the supposed pinnacle of motorsports? The answer is simple. They threw out every single rule Formula One has to follow. F1 has displacement limits. Pro Mod doesn't. F1 has fuel restrictions. Pro Mod doesn't. F1 has weight minimums. Pro Mod laughs at that concept. F1 has to make cars last for practice, qualifying, and race day. Pro Mod engines are rebuilt after every single pass down the quarter mile. Pro modified racing is what happens when you ask one question: how fast can we make this thing accelerate? Not how long will it last? Not how well does it corner? Just pure, violent, straight-line acceleration with zero compromises. Let's talk about the engines, because this is where things get truly insane. Pro stock cars, the smaller class, run naturally aspirated V8s, making around 1,500 horsepower from 500 cubic inches. That's about 8.2 liters, revving to 10,500 RPM on gasoline. No turbos, No superchargers, just valves, camshafts, and decades of engineering knowledge. Pro-modified cars? They're running twin-turbocharged or supercharged engines making 3,500 to 4,000 horsepower. From 526 cubic inches, that's 8.6 liters. For comparison, a Formula 1 engine makes about 1,000 horsepower from 1.6 liters. Sounds impressive until you realize the Pro Mod makes 4 times that power and doesn't need a hybrid system or energy recovery to do it. These engines run on methanol or specialized racing fuel. They're designed to survive exactly 1 quarter-mile pass before being torn down and inspected. Pistons are replaced, bearings are checked, valves are measured. This is Formula 1 level maintenance, but concentrated into 6 seconds of fury instead of 200 miles of racing. The transmissions are equally insane. Pro stock cars use a Lenco, a multi-stage clutchless transmission that's basically a series of planetary gear sets stacked together. Shifting happens by pulling levers in sequence. There's no synchros, no clutch pedal after the launch, just brutal mechanical engagement happening in milliseconds. Pro Mod cars? Many run a modified version of the same system, or they use a 3-speed automatic that's been reinforced to handle 4,000 horsepower. These aren't your grandma's TH400s. They're billet aluminum cases filled with custom internals that cost more than entire production car engines. And the clutches? A Pro stock clutch is a work of art. Carbon fiber discs, titanium pressure plates, centrifugal weights that modulate engagement based on RPM. The clutch setup alone costs $15,000 and might last 50 passes before needing replacement. It's designed to slip just enough to prevent tire shake while transferring 1,500 horsepower to the rear wheels in under half a second. Now let's talk about the chassis, because this is where Pro Mod and Pro Stock separate from everything else in motorsports. These cars look like 1969 Camaros and 1968 Firebirds, but that's where the similarity ends. The body is carbon fiber, molded to look identical to the original steel panels, but weighing a fraction as much. Underneath is a tube frame chassis built from chromoly steel. The wheelbase is stretched compared to stock. The suspension is custom 4-link or ladder bar setup in the rear with adjustable coilovers that allow tuning for track conditions. The front suspension barely exists. These cars lift the front wheels several feet off the ground during launch. The front suspension's only job is to keep the car pointed straight when it lands. There's no need for cornering ability, no need for compliance over bumps, just enough structure to keep the car from swapping ends at 250 miles per hour. Total weight? Pro stock cars run around 2,350 pounds. Pro Mod cars are about 2,300 pounds. For comparison, an F1 car weighs 1,750 pounds, but it's also making a quarter of the power and moving significantly slower in a straight line. The tires tell the whole story. An F1 car runs slick tires that are maybe 13 inches wide at the rear. A Pro Mod car? The rear tires are 17 inches wide and nearly 36 inches tall. They're not pneumatic, they're filled with air at single-digit PSI, allowing them to wrinkle and deform on launch, creating a massive contact patch with the racing surface. Watch footage of a Pro Mod launch in slow motion. The rear tires literally fold in half at the contact point, creating a flat spot the size of a dinner plate. This is how you transfer 4,000 horsepower to the ground without just spinning the tires uselessly. The tire technology alone represents decades of Goodyear and Hoosier research. Meanwhile, the front tires are tiny, maybe 4 inches wide. They're basically there to make the car look symmetrical. Once the car launches, those front wheels are 3 feet in the air anyway. Who needs front tires when you're pulling a wheelie at 100 miles per hour? The driving technique is completely different from anything in Formula 1. An F1 driver manages tire temperature, fuel mixture, battery deployment, and brake cooling over 50 laps. A Pro Stock or Pro Mod driver has 6 seconds to execute perfection. The launch is everything. Too much throttle, tire shake destroys the run. Too little throttle, you lose to the guy in the other lane. The driver is modulating a clutch pedal and throttle simultaneously, reading tire shake through the steering wheel, listening to engine RPM, and watching the tachometer, all while being slammed back into the seat with 4 Gs of force. At the 60-foot mark, less than 1 second into the run, the driver knows if they're going to win or lose. By 330 feet, the car is already traveling over 100 miles per hour. At half-track, speeds exceed 200 miles per hour. And unlike an F1 car that builds speed gradually through gears, the Pro Mod is already at 250 miles per hour before the finish line even comes into view. The deceleration is equally violent. Pro Mod cars deploy parachutes at the finish line, 2 parachutes, each 10 feet in diameter, that deploy at 250 miles per hour and create enough drag to rip the car down to 100 miles per hour in seconds. Then the brakes take over, massive carbon fiber discs that glow red hot by the end of the shutdown area. An F1 car has carbon brakes too, but they're designed for repeated corner entry. A Pro Mod brake system is designed for one purpose: stop the car before it runs out of shutdown area. The forces are so extreme that drivers have to brace against the steering wheel to avoid hitting their chest on the safety belts. Here's the part that blows people's minds. These cars wearing 1960s muscle car bodies are faster than top fuel dragsters in the first 300 feet of the track. Top fuel cars eventually catch up because they're making 11,000 horsepower and hit 340 miles per hour. But in that first critical moment of acceleration, the lighter, more agile Pro Mod actually pulls ahead. Think about that. A car that looks like your uncle's Camaro is out-accelerating the fastest vehicles in motorsports. It's out-accelerating fighter jets on catapults. It's approaching the acceleration levels of rocket sleds. And it's doing it on a surface that isn't perfectly smooth, in varying weather conditions, with a human being inside fighting for control. The cost? A competitive Pro Stock program costs around $2 million per season. Pro Modified, closer to $3 million if you're running at the front. That's not far off from a lower-tier Formula One team budget, but instead of 23 races spread across the world, you're running 16 to 20 events, all in North America. Every engine rebuild is $50,000. Every clutch replacement is $15,000. Tires are $2,000 per set and last maybe 10 passes. The carbon fiber body panels? $30,000 to replace after a crash. This isn't a hobby. It's a full-scale professional racing operation with transporters, crew chiefs, data acquisition systems, and engineers analyzing every millisecond of every run. But here's what separates drag racing from Formula One: accessibility. You can walk into the pits at a Pro Mod race. You can talk to the drivers. You can watch them work on the cars between rounds. Try doing that at an F1 race. You'll need credentials, paddock access, and probably a net worth with 8 zeros. So when someone asks you what the fastest accelerating car in motorsports is, you now know the answer. It's not a Formula One car. It's not a hypercar. It's not even a top fuel dragster in the first 300 feet. It's a machine wearing the sheet metal of a 1969 Camaro or a 1968 Firebird, running a twin-turbocharged V8 making 4,000 horsepower, covering the quarter mile in 5.6 seconds at 250 plus miles per hour. It's American engineering taken to its most extreme conclusion. The complete rejection of every compromise Formula One has to make in the name of pure, violent, straight-line speed. The muscle car won, and it's not even close.